third question we have is with, as you guys have so beautifully stated, like the differences in how things are in today's times, what, in your opinion, qualifies you to be an elder? Do you agree that people under a certain age can qualify as an elder?
I'm not sure how to answer that one. To be honest, that's a hard one. I'm guessing it has a lot to do with your life experience, maybe. Um, for me, I think I was parenting. I call it parenting from a very young age because when my um, when my mom left for the UK and left us with her grandmother, grandparents, there was four of us. The youngest was just 2 years old. My youngest sister was just 2 years old, and I was eight. So I took over the parenting of her because my grandmother was getting on in age and she was more of a guardian. But we, as her grandchildren, we looked after each other as well. So I took care of my youngest sister from the age of two. And so when I think about it now, I see myself as parenting, her as well. And years and years later, she said to me one day, I always told people that you were my surrogate mother. Even though we come to England and my parents were here, she still saw me as a parent, even though I was very young, you know. And I think I then had my children young as well. So I've been parenting all that time, I feel. So I feel that I have the experience. Maybe the experience is what helps you to classify as an elder. I don't know. Your experience of children and, you know, their upbringing and, the sort of exposure that you've had to all the different problems that you've had to deal with involving children and so on. I don't know. That's all I can think of right now. you
It
know,
is a hard one. It's a
years,
Yeah,
emotional.
it is
years,
understandable.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Jean, what are your opinions?
Okay.
What do you think qualifies you as an elder? And
Uh,
also, do you agree with the fact that some people under the age of, say, 40, can qualify as an elder?
okay. So I just wrote down what the thoughts that were coming to me. So what came to me was it comes with time, it comes with experiences that you have gained, that I have gained as an adult, um, and the wisdom that I've gained from the lesson that I've learned from my elders. Um, and anyone can be, there's no age limit to it. So anyone can be an elder. It could be 50 and they could be an elder.
Mm.
So gray hair or no gray hair, they can be an elder. It has to be a level of maturity that they're at, and also wisdom. Um, when I'm in a group right now, and when we start our before we start, we have to get permission from the elder to begin, and usually it's the announcement is made. Is there anyone 75 or older that will give us, permission to begin? And then, so when there's no one at that age, then they get to 65 and older. Um, and then I'm like, oh, I'm in that category. I could say we have permission to begin. But if there wasn't anyone in that age range, then it would go to the next level.
Mhm.
So it would be 55. And if there was no one in the group that was at 55, then it would go down to the next group. So yeah, it's about the maturity and the experience that you have had.
Mhm. I just want to say real quick that I agree with you. Like I gave a different perspective and I received that one too. Like, because it does make sense that if I could learn from you, like if you're older, if I'm 38 now, so if you're 50 and you're acting belligerent and obnoxious and like what, and I'm learning all the things not to do, I guess I could still say that I'm learning from you, so whatever. But in my opinion, like I feel like just like elder, like an elder, you just think wise counsel. You just think like, like of reverence. You just think like there's a certain level of respect you give somebody who's an elder. That's how I always looked at it up until yesterday. I got a different perspective. But I feel like yeah, it takes experience, but it takes away that you carry and you present yourself so that like you said, excuse me, Selma, Miss Caroline's mom. Like you said, your grandkids, you spend a lot of time with them, but not only do you spend time, but they come to you, they talk to you, and they listen, they take your advice. These are things that, like, to me, consider someone an elder. Like, I want to go and I want to be a sponge. I want to soak up knowledge. I want to get gems. I want to get things to grow. And, that's how I always looked at it.
Yeah, I get
I think
that.
that
I get that for sure. And you know what? Having this conversation made me look up the definition of elder. And there's adjective and a noun. So a noun for an elder is a person of greater age than someone specified. So with my mother just broke it down. They go from 75, 65, 50, right? And we look at our own families. We have elder siblings. So
Mhm.
elder is different things. On the adjective side is one of more out of a group associated people of a greater age, my elder daughter, right? So
Mm.
when we look at it through the context of what it's defined as, an elder can be someone that's just older than you.
That's
Now
crazy
I
though,
get what you're
because
saying,
I
Tone,
guess it's the
because I
connotation
think
of.
it's the things that we add to, and I learned this distinction in the transformative education that my mother
Mhm.
introduced to me, is that we have our own meaning of these words that don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to do with the definition of them. It's what we add to it. And a lot of
You
times that's why we have breakdown in communication, because we think somebody's saying something and it means something to us that they didn't necessarily intend for it to mean.
all right, mic dropping over here. Okay. But that's a valid point. First of all, I never looked up the definition, so thank you for that. But then you have a valid point, and that it's not just that word. It's so many words that it's the connotation of a word, as opposed to the actual definition of a word. Like I said, I never looked up the word, so I never actually knew the actual definition of the word. I've only went by what I thought it meant based off of the Bible, based off of books that I've read, stories, like of course it like so through the connotation of what an elder is, that's what I've always had mine. But even though if you think about it, the word elder just means older, it's just said different. But whatever, fine.
But we still want to carry, a certain reverence for our elders. That's
Yes,
just
ma'am.
something that as a community, I was taught to practice. We have so much to gain from the elders by, like we said yesterday, just by sitting at the feet of them, things that can be passed down through stories, through just observing, right? So we would love for our elders to carry themselves with a certain amount of grace and just
Mm-hmm.
a presence that they have in our lives that allows us to be able to present ourselves in a manner that's respectful.
And I
with
do
that being said, what about the difference of our elders say that are present and new eldership of today? Piggybacking off of what you said about a certain level of reverence in the way they present themselves, right? Because there's a lot of people who are in these age ranges that we hold so dear that present themselves as, say, 20-year-olds and don't have the maturity to go along with their life experience. And you made a great point yesterday about learning from what not to do from them. But do you think that they, for lack of better words, can have that title attached to them when they haven't reached that maturity level?
I do think so if we're going by the definition, but then if we're going by what we add to it, that's perspective, right? It's based on what we see. And I think that a youthfulness with life as we age can keep us in the game, right? Once we start to get rigid and think like, oh, because I'm this age, I have to be this way. We don't want to adapt to change. And I think that can be harmful, just in my opinion.
Right. I agree with the keeping it youthful, but I mean like those without disrespecting anyone.
Yeah,
I
I
mean
get
those
what you're
people.
saying.
You know what I mean? Those
Yeah,
people who
yeah. They
are
outside.
right. They aren't young and
Yeah.
exuberant. They're more like I'm in the club with 20-year-olds being just as reckless. Like I don't know at my big age of 50 that this behavior is not going to end well for me. Like I'm going to need 2 weeks to recover, and I'm also setting a horrible example for say the 20-year-old that I'm partying with, things like that, and then coming home and trying to give advice to a 10-year-old who seeks your wisdom because they think you're a good example, but they're seeing that sort of person. I think there's a difference between the young, youthful exuberance and regality of the two mothers we have here and the youth that we see represented, say, online.
I'm a bit thinking like it depends because I'm going on a cruise with my mother. And I
Like he
partied with my
like you.
mother.
Yes, you
I
was.
partied with my
Say
mother
it.
since before I was of age to get into clubs. My elder brother's a DJ. So it depends on the dynamic of the family, right? And how in these parties
They represent
the
themselves.
elder is holding themselves down for
There
sure,
you go.
100%. Because some people are in the parties and, like you said, they're carrying on like the youngins. But then you do see some elder people in parties and they're off in the cut. Maybe they're a wallflower or they're dancing too, but they're not.
Just catch a vibe.
Yeah, they're just there to enjoy the time. The DJs being the maestro, and you know, it depends for me still.
Caroline, I see you chomping at the
And
bit. What you got? What you got?
No, I mean, I agree with Emmanuel. That's a very good point that you just made, Emmanuel, because my mom knows how to walk up. And I went to Barbados. The last time I went to Barbados, me and mom were in the club getting down. But she's a very responsible parent. And I think what the thought I wanted to just get across is I think young people I'm talking about the Caribbean because that's my background. I think they come up more mature. Mum would probably argue that now in today's day and age, but I know when, say, I was 18, my equivalent in the Caribbean, I think, were just more mature than we were because of the life. And I think the kind of hardship, the challenges Emmanuel's mom and my mom have faced, that has to give you wisdom, because once you get through the other side of it, you're going to be wiser. If you're not, you're a fool. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of like what I see with you, Synthonia. So it's like you're young in age, but you are wise. And I've said numerous times that there's things that you've said to me that I've had to go, you know what, fair enough. And I've followed your advice. So you being younger than me, I said this to you as well, Adriana, I don't see it as this huge gap, if that makes sense. But there's other people that are younger than me that are like like your age, that are in a different stratosphere than me, because they haven't been through anything. They might have had a soft life already. They might be a bit spoiled, whatever. So they don't. If you don't go through stuff, you don't know stuff. So I think for the elders in my family are wise. A big part of it is that everything Mom just said. It's a big part of why they're wise. they're not, you know, I can listen to them because I know they're not just talking out of air.
Talking the talk.
Yeah.
I agree. And to be clear, full disclaimer, I am all for growing up and being an adult and seeing what, say, my parents and aunties are like, you know, in a fun setting. That I just wanted to, you know, gauge you guys' opinion on those that maybe don't necessarily represent themselves in the best way and in ways that are harmful to today's youth, which is why a large percentage of the today's youth are lost, or at least seem that way, or don't have the appropriate guidance, or truthfully don't have a sense of focus. Because there is, I mean, there is that dichotomy of you wanting to grow up and see what it's like to enjoy your parents or surrogate parents, whoever, as adults and get to know them as people as opposed to on that pedestal that we put them on as children. So I just wanted to say that. But elders, if you have anything to add, please.
I think a lot of it comes down to culture as well, because if you look at different cultures, you see a different way of how elders are treated, you know. And in the Caribbean culture, you're taught to respect elders, and that means your parents, your grandparents, you know, and other people of that age in society. You know, you just don't be rude to somebody, you know, of that age, you know. So in this country, in the UK, I find it's a bit different, you know. Young people, they seem not to give that same amount of respect to people older than themselves, you know. But in the Caribbean also, as a so-called elderly person, you are allowed to have fun, you know. You can go to carnival and you can dance, you can do whatever, and nobody bothers about that, you know, as long as you're doing it in a respectful way, and you know, you're not hurting anybody, you know. People allow you to have that time, have your fun as well, because you get to a certain age, you don't have to stop enjoying life, enjoying yourself, and giving yourself time to, you know, to mix in with the younger people and enjoy yourself, you know. And that's what I love about going to things like carnival in the Caribbean. You see people of all age, you know, and they're all enjoying it. And it's a day for everybody to come together, and or 2 days or a week or whatever, and have fun, you know, and not see elders as those people that, you know, they're gonna judge you, they're gonna be, you know, always be strict, and you know, not all people are like that, you know. They can have a joke and a laugh with the younger people and encourage them, and to me that it works better that way, I find, you know. Like Caroline said, I can dance. Yeah, I enjoy dancing. I grew up in the Caribbean till I was 16, and you know, we had fun at carnival, and I love that.
That's where she gets it from.
Yeah, and I would go there now and enjoy carnival. I'm 73 years old, but I would still go there and join in with the younger people.
And that's why your skin look good, and that's why you're looking good still, because you're living. What is wrong? That's right. Don't dry up like a raisin on me.
We don't separate our elders off either. That's another point, is we, just to reinforce what Mom's saying, we don't separate them off. Like which British culture, I think that's more normal. Like things like putting your elders in a home. We're going to do everything we can to not do that first. And I did want to say as well, Jean, that my mom's passed away. My nan passed away around the same time, I think, as your mom did for my mom. So you share that experience. But Mom was going, like I know you were, because Emmanuel's mentioned it, Mom was going back and forth to Barbados, flying out to look after Nanny and to look after Granddad. You know, that's what our culture does. We'll do anything before we'll put them in an old elderly home, and we keep them in the mix. You know, it's not like you're old, so now you don't matter. You know,
That's
So
Maybe that
true.
could be it
that
in America.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
sorry,
gonna
what are you
say that.
saying?
I I just want to say so true, and that I have a motto which is living my life to the fullest, having no regrets, and just because I'm at the age where I am, it's just a number. I mean, and I last when was it? Yeah, and earlier this year, following my mom's passing, you know, I was what's the word I want to use? It was, yeah, it was, I was basically almost like attacked because, yeah, and yeah, I was almost attacked because, oh, you should be this way because you're not, you're not young anymore.
Mm,
And basically admonishing me because of how I dress. I dress nice. I like to go out. I like to listen to music. That's just the type
mm,
of person that I am. So I'm passing judgments. It's that's something issues that I guess other people have to deal with God, within themselves. So, like I said, I just have to live my life to the fullest, having no regrets because I just have right now this moment. Tomorrow is not promised. And as long as I have the ability to, I am going to enjoy life.
good.
I love that. Perfectly stated. Miss Selma, you were saying?
No, I was saying, yeah, I agree with everything. Just that, yeah, I feel the same. Age is just a number, you know, and I have respect for people that are older than myself, and I've taught my children to do the same. And by respecting that person doesn't mean that it means that you allow them to be themselves too. You know, if they want to have fun, let them do that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think if you show that to your children and grandchildren, they would grow up with that same attitude in mind towards older people. And because if I hear of anybody, one of my grandchildren, saying something about an elderly person, which was disrespectful, I'd want to know why. Why was that? Why did you feel that they were disrespectful? What did they do? You know, and try and understand that and try and explain to them that you can do, you can still enjoy life as an older person. You know, and yeah, nobody's gonna tell me I'm too old to do anything. That's my decision to make. And if anybody has a problem with that, so be it. You know, because you have to live your life. I live my life. You have your life. You have to live your life too. And I'm not gonna judge you, basically. So
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Just to add to your other point before we move on, I think that's a cultural difference.
Yeah.
Meaning for Black people as a diaspora. I know we're not a monolith, but I was also brought up in mind you, it was a lot dysfunctional, but there's still that belief that we don't put our elders in a home. We take care of our elders. So I think that's more of a Black thing, for lack of a better word. I don't want to, take away from those who actually choose to put people in homes and whatnot. But I think more often than not, because we know how our people are treated in these homes
Mhm.
and things of that nature, and also as you mature, even if you're misguided as a youth, you learn to appreciate your elders. I think that's something that the majority of us do, is take on that responsibility of wanting to take care of our elders and love on them, and appreciate them, even if it is later rather than sooner. But thank you so much for that wisdom.
Okay. But I did want to say one thing, because it is important to live, right? And this is just kind of like a sidebar, but just from what you guys were saying, because I find that I'm more judgmental than I like to be. I am, because I do feel like, oh, why is this person acting like that? They're this age, but and just listening, right? It's dang, like I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for my mind, and but it's not right to tell somebody, oh, you should act like this because you're this age. Like, as long as I'm living my life and I'm not being hurt or they're not hurting nobody around me, right? But my thing, I just don't. It's important to live, but don't be out of control, and uh don't be what I expect, or what if I'm looking to be a better person, or if I'm looking to elevate or grow in this way or that way. This elder, don't try to force me to listen to you, to take your advice, and now what you say is law and is that there. Meanwhile, your whole lifestyle is hypocritical to me. So
Mm.
now it's not that I'm being rude because I'm not taking your advice, or because I'm not agreeing with what you're saying. I'm not being rude. I'm just being honest. I don't really feel like I want to take your advice, so I can trust what you're saying, because you're not really living my standard. Is that wrong? Like, I know I'm a judgmental person, but is that like a wrong way to think? No, because I feel like you should live, but like, when you live in, just know the consequences of how you live in. Now, you women, you live. You go on a cruise. You go on a carnival. I can see you guys in carnival. I can come. I can talk. I probably want to be around you guys most of the night. Find a way, and you know what I'm saying. Talk about it. That is complete. I'm not going to no club and seeing no 55, 60-year-old shaking their behind up on no and this and third, and they drinking and they drunk and they slut, and then they tomorrow morning they're gonna tell me how I should be doing this and make sure I'm doing this. I'm be like, why you think you could tell me what to do?
Can I just say though that I know the elders, I want the elders to come in, but all I want to say, just from as the child of mom, is on balance, and that's what I've taken on board as a mom. It's that mom was responsible. So as much as I went to Barbados with her at 26 and walked up in the clubs and drank rum punch and that, mom was always there. I didn't come home to an empty house. Mom was at home. Mom cooked every day. Mom was up at the school like Emmanuel's mom. Mom was always present and always responsible for her 4 children. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like she didn't know but she could get down when she's ready. But on balance, I think it's when you've got these adults that are just irresponsible, and they're 50 acting like they're 20. Do you know what I mean? And they're not looking after their children. And I'll hand over to the elders, but that was just
There are always going to be exceptions to the rules, isn't there? There always is. There are always going to be those that are irresponsible elders that behave badly, and of course, you're not going to respect them for that, But I think in the majority of cases, elders want to be seen as individuals, and they don't want to be put in a box as this kind of person, and you have to behave like that. You're still an individual, and that for me is important. I'm not just an elder, I'm an individual, and I have my own thoughts and my own feelings, and if you as a young person can have fun, why can't I? As long as I'm doing it respectfully. Because if young people are misbehaving, you don't like that either. Nobody wants that to happen either with younger people.
Valid point.
Yeah. So we all have to, I'll come back to that word judgmental, and just let people be themselves, as long as they're not hurting anyone. Let them enjoy their life, because there's a saying, life is short, you know? Let them be themselves and have fun. They're not embarrassing to you. That's okay, you know? I mean, and with regard to what you mentioned about somebody in their 50s shaking her bottom in that
He's like,
that
that's me. Watch what you're saying.
that is carnival, and that's fun. That's all
It's-
part of it. But the next day, they've got the biggest job in the country. They're out there doing
yeah.
their work and being respected. But for carnival, people don't bother about that. You know, they
I
think they're
see your
having
point.
fun, and if they want to shake their booty, that's okay. You
Part
know,
of the culture, in it.
that's the culture. You don't judge people. That's the culture there anyway. You wouldn't judge somebody because you say it's a time for having fun, and regardless of your position. I mean, I wasn't in Barbados for Carnival this year, what we call crop over, but I watched some of it on YouTube because I wanted to see what was going on. And the Prime Minister of Barbados was there enjoying herself. She wasn't shaking her booty but she was dancing, she was getting down, right down, and
Mm-hmm.
getting back, and she was enjoying it with her citizens. And
Mm-hmm.
there are some people that would criticize her for that, but the majority would say, go Prime Minister, enjoy yourself. Because and next day she's in Parliament and she's, making speeches about the
Yeah,
country, you
fine.
know.
Because in case I can say fine only because I can't know who's doing what the next day. I can't know who's being responsible, so I can't really judge people from the look. But just like, yes, I definitely appreciate that point of view. I definitely appreciate it. Yes, all right, fine, fine. I appreciate
Miss
it.
Jean, did you have something to add to that?
And
Sorry?
Jamaican culture's much the same.
Yeah.
The dancing, and that was something we grew up talking about, was that they being in England is that they take our culture and they make it look obscene, but it's our culture. Do you get what I'm saying? So when you dance to soca, you walk up and you wind up. When you get down to reggae, you move in a certain way, you know what I'm saying? But when you take it out of its natural environment and put it somewhere else, it can look nastiness or and that stuff does exist in Jamaican culture, and in Bajan culture there's another level to it where people are like in G-strings and doing some obscene stuff. That does exist. But I see that with American culture as well, from an outside perspective, that I think sometimes it's made to look worse than it is because we're not in that environment. Do you know what I'm saying? So, because I do see parallels between Black American culture and Caribbean culture in that regard. The way the twerking is like wooking up. It's just got a different name.
I agree, and to answer your question directly, Tone, from my perspective, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Um, and to Caroline's point, yeah, twerking comes from Africa originally, or whatever you choose to call it, things of that nature. I don't think it's necessarily how you dance or what you're doing. I think it's the character and the behavior that goes along with that. Like at least in American culture, as opposed to Caribbean culture, it's not just that you're, whining on a younger dude. You're literally it could be an X-rated
You're
movie
having
sort of
sex on the
situation.
dance floor. You could say
Basically
it.
that. Yeah, and then on top of that, you're recklessly intoxicated, you're openly doing all sorts of illicit things, and you are basically leading younger people to do that. Those are the types of people that I think me and Tone are referring to. Those types of elders who behave that way and then in the light of day present themselves to be, say, like you guys, people that enjoy having fun but also have that balance. We're talking about
Right.
imbalance people.
Exactly.
You know
You
what I
hit
mean?
it. And they demand that respect that you two women would get. They demand that, they feel like they should get that same respect.
Hmm.
And to me it's just like, I maybe I'm being judgmental, but maybe it's just like, no, I don't feel like I should listen to you. But I don't know. I just have to sit back and meditate on this conversation.
I think, first of all, the wisdom that I have obtained throughout the years, the struggles that I've been through, good and bad times, really prepare you to be an elder. It prepares you to be able to guide the next generation to a better place. That's not happening a lot in life right now. It's not being the knowledge and wisdom isn't being passed down to the next generation. It's more or less all for self. Age doesn't necessarily give you the right to consider yourself an elder. I've seen a lot in the last year, I've seen a lot of people older than me, my age, and maybe just a little bit younger, that should be in that stage of being an elder, that are, I don't know if they're clinging on to their childhood or youth. I should say not childhood, but youth. Or
Like in a negative way, clinging to it. You mean?
yes, yes. And don't care about the state of the generation that they are raising.
So to your point about people of your ilk who don't particularly act that way, do you think elders that don't present as elders should have that distinction?
Yes and no. In a way, they should be considered an elder because of what they've been through in their life. But no, because they aren't sharing the wisdom, the life experiences, and, just the overall knowledge of life in general. However, there is a lesson in there's a blessing in every lesson, is what I wanted to say. Whether that lesson is good or bad, because I know quite a few people who have seen almost complete negativity in their household growing up, and have turned it into, a positive life because of the negativity that they've seen. So they were taught, not conventionally, but they were taught how to be by seeing how not to be.